I've tried to do this a few times now without dogs in it, and like the dogs aren't having it. So today's video is gonna have dogs in it. And honestly, if you don't like that, then I don't really know what to say about that. I'm gonna talk about anxiety today. I had a wicked bad panic attack on Wednesday last week. I haven't had a panic attack, not a real one. I have bouts of anxiety, and I'm certainly prone to overthinking, and I can kind of get stuck on subjects and then develop fears around those subjects, and those fears can kind of go into a place that is less rooted in reality. But I haven't had a real attack in probably 3 years. So my disclosure, or disclaimer rather, I'm not a doctor. This is not intended to be medical advice. I'm just one person talking about their experience. So don't come for my credentials. I'm not claiming any. Come on, dog. So I was at work on Wednesday. I'm a painter in addition to my internet stuff. And that was the morning that I planned to book a very expensive elective surgery that I'm having. I will talk about that in another video. The surgery is kind of a big deal. It's the first time that I will have had any kind of a drug in my system in over 5 years. I asked for non-narcotic anesthetic for the surgery, and they basically just said, no, we're going to give you fentanyl. And I was like, cool. Not cool, a little anxious about that. The cost is enormous. You know, it's my choice. I'm doing it. But it's just a lot, and I started getting a little bit nervous. I also am in a bit of a pinch to get my weight down to where I plan to maintain it before I have the surgery. Otherwise, the final result of the surgery, this hand motion, the final result of the surgery will be skewed if I'm not able to, maintain my weight within about a 10-pound range after the surgery. So that's what happened. Was I went to work. I called and I booked my surgery, and I was really excited about it because I've been wanting to do this for 10 years at least, and I'm finally doing it, and that's exciting. And then, very rational concerns came up, like, having a narcotic in my system for the first time in many years, that's a real concern. The money is a concern. Money comes and money goes. It's not the end of the world, but it's certainly, it's not a small amount, so it's something to give consideration to. And then I thought, I could feel anxiety starting to come on, and I could feel that my thoughts were, I wasn't looking at it like, here's the concern, now let's think of possible solutions, which is generally when I'm, in a good place, that's how I look at problems. It was, here's the concern, and here's another concern as an addition to that, and then it just kept snowballing, and I thought, well, I don't want to freak out over it. I mean, it's done now, it's booked, so now's not really a time to have a big old freak out. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to focus on work. I'm going to try to get out of my head. I'm going to do something physical, and that's part of why I like painting so much, is that usually it provides me with a nice quiet space where I don't have to interact with other people, and I can just fucking blast, I can just blast metal music and just go, my body kind of goes on autopilot, and so does my brain for the most part when I paint. So I'm sanding these walls, and I'm starting to feel a little bit of tightness in my chest, and I'm making silly mistakes, that I only make when I'm unfocused, and then I'm having to go back and fix things, and so that's building frustration, and I can feel this, agitation rising in me, but I think it's just work stuff. I think I'm mad because I'm making silly mistakes and having to go correct things, and so I keep dismissing it, and then probably an hour goes by, and I realize that my arms are incredibly sore. I've been painting for a couple of years. If you do get sore arms, it's a very upper body kind of job, but not that early in the day I don't get sore. So it kind of dawns on me that I'm aggressively sanding these walls, much more than is necessary, because I'm anxious and I'm not paying attention, and I'm not practicing good, safe ergonomics. I'm just giving her shit because I'm stressed. So at this point, for me, it would have been wise to stop and, either do some deep breathing. I know how corny that sounds, but for me it actually helps when I breathe in for a count of 4, and then I hold my breath for 2 seconds, and then I exhale for a count of 4, and I usually do that about 5 times. I don't think it's actually the breathing. I think it's being focused on something that isn't scary or challenging, breathing is pretty simple, and I think giving myself something I can do and succeed at, I find relaxing in stressful times. I could have called somebody. That's usually for me, that's a pretty quick fix, because I have really good friends who I can call and just say, I'm freaking out right now, and I'm not sure that anything that's going on in my head makes sense or is even rooted in reality, but I just want to hear it out loud so I can hear that it's not rooted in reality, and that I can hold on to that fact and like use it to help let go of some of these concerns. But I didn't do that. I had this weird sense of not wanting to be a burden. I considered calling my mom, and I really didn't want to stress her out. She's got Spike. She's got enough going on, so I didn't want to call her, and I've got some really great girlfriends I could call, and I've got somebody close to me in my life that I could have called, who's like used to my ranting when it comes, and I didn't. I talked myself into, it's not that bad, you're just stressed, you're at kind of a transitional phase in life, you're making some considerable choices career-wise, and you're just stressed. It's okay. You don't need to like make this somebody else's problem, and you got a job to do, so get back to work. So that's what I did. I went back to work, and I would say probably 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So this has been a few hours of me feeling just generally uncomfortable. So anxiety for me presents very physically, so I feel tightness in my chest. I don't have like hyperventilating unless I'm in a really intense, like full-blown attack, but I find my breath is a little shorter and a little quicker than it needs to be. Little things agitate me. I get soreness in my body because I'm physically tense, so my muscles wear out. I start feeling fatigue, and just general irritation is like in my body. I feel, everything feels tense and like uncomfortable. That's generally how anxiety presents for me, and hotness. My skin feels hot to the touch, and sometimes, I'm really glad it's not happening now, but I have a skin condition where when I'm stressed out, a little bit actually, perfect timing, thanks guys, I get kind of red splotches on my skin because I have this skin condition called dermographism, and it is sometimes ignited by anxiety and stress. Anyway, all these signs are there, and I'm not stopping and doing any of the things that help me. Like, I had my phone with me. I could have gone on YouTube and I could have busted out, a quick 5-minute yoga just to focus my mind on something, stretch out these tense muscles. Like, there were things I could have done that I didn't. And that's probably why things went as far as they did. So around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I realized that I'm headed into a bad place, right? I feel I've got a big lump in my throat. I feel like I'm going to start crying, and I don't know what I'm going to cry over. I just feel like the feeling of being overwhelmed, that feeling of being overwhelmed is very quickly moving from a place of being uncomfortable into a place of being unmanageable. So I realize I'm starting to tailspin. I cannot get my thoughts to stay on any one subject. So every real fear that I was considering in the morning now is spiraling into things that, it started here and it made sense, and it's like shot off in all these different directions, and none of them, if I were to try and write it down, it would just look silly, right? But in my head, it's spinning and it's getting worse. And so I realized that I'm starting to circle the drain, as they say. So I finally realized that, I'm gonna need some help. So I messaged 3 of my friends, and I'm super fortunate. So I messaged one of my girlfriends who I talk to literally all day, every day. And she happened to not be around at this point. I messaged another one of my friends who is super close to me, and we talk often, but not, not every day, but not 24/7. And then I messaged another one of my girlfriends who is just, her voice is like butter anyway. Like, her voice is like velvet heroin anyways. So I messaged her, and I messaged all of them basically the same thing. And I said, I joke around a lot about my anxiety and stuff, because I just kind of try to not take myself too seriously. But I said something along the lines of, I'm reaching out because I'm not okay right now. I will be fine. I don't want to send you into a panic, but I'm really not okay right now. And I'm not joking. This is not a drill. I'm not doing okay. And so when my girlfriends messaged me back pretty well right away and said, I'm glad you came to me. When can we talk? So by this point, real panic is settling in because I know that my thoughts are spinning out of control. I'm logically aware that what's going on in my mind doesn't make sense, but the way it's affecting me is very, very real. So I'm like, I'm getting anxious just like trying to relive this experience. So I've got big fat tears in my eyes, and I'm trying so hard to hold them back, and I don't know why. Like, crying is good and it's cathartic, and it's a release, and I needed that. But I'm trying not to cry. I've got a huge lump in my throat. I'm on the verge of hyperventilating. Like, I'm trying to breathe in deeply, and I'm not able to draw long breaths, and so I'm starting to feel lightheaded, and that's making me scared. My heart rate is through the roof. I've got a little, thudding headache starting. And I'm at a client's house, and I sit down on the floor because for me, sometimes sitting down and planting my hands, like I sit down and I put my feet flat on the floor, and then I put my palms down on the floor as well. And there's something about that I find usually very comforting, right? I'm all the way seated. I'm still. And sometimes just being still and realizing that I don't have to do anything. There's nothing I have to do right now. I can just sit and I can just be. Sometimes I find that helps. And this time it did not. It dawned on me that I'm sitting in a client's house. This like young professional dude is going to come home any minute now, and he's going to find this like sweaty, I'm covered in dust because I've been hyper sanding all day. And I'm going to have like tear stains through the dust that's all over my skin, and I'm hyperventilating and I can't talk. And I just thought, wow, I'm not going to subject my client to this. So against better judgment, I leave, like I put away my stuff. Spike's taking his cue and leaving also. I put away my stuff and I get in my car, and I just started sobbing, uncontrollable sobbing. And I don't know what I'm crying about, except that I'm scared. I'm scared about the condition that I'm in right now. I'm scared about how out of control I feel in my head. I'm scared of how to get out of it, or how long it's going to last, or, because that's the thing about crazy thoughts is generally what doesn't happen when you're in the middle of a panic attack is the rational thought of, this isn't going to last forever, just hold on, you'll be okay. Doesn't happen for me anyways. So I try to drive home. I live in a very small town, real small town. And I had to pull over twice because I was crying so hard, like ugly, like hard cry, that I was like not watching where I was going, and I just had to pull over because I wasn't safe to drive. I live like 4 minutes from where I was painting, and I think it took me a solid 15 minutes to get home because twice I had to pull over and just bawl my eyes out. So I finally get home. I get home and I get in my house, and now I'm starting to feel a little bit better. I've had a good cry. I've left kind of the scene of where this all began, and where I started, feeling all this anxiety and all this tremendous pressure. I'm back in my safe, comfortable little zone. I know that as soon as I'm ready, I have a friend who I'm going to talk to about what's going on. And I sat down on my couch, just filthy from my day of work, and I messaged my friend and I said, I'm home now. And so she was kind enough to video chat me. And, one of the first things I said was something like, sorry for my appearance. Like, she's my friend, as if she would care. And she just sort of laughed gently and said, that's one of my favorite things about when you and I talk, is that I send you like the ugliest snaps, because I can, because that's what our friendship is like. And I just found that so calming, that instead of saying, don't worry about what you look like, tell me what's going on, she didn't dive in with any level of intensity, because that, a lack of tensity, a gentleness is exactly what I needed. And so I started rambling about everything I was concerned about, and she did what for me is really the ideal thing when I'm in a panic attack. Like, when I'm having such bad physical symptoms that, I feel like I'm gonna have a heart attack for one. I'm in pain because my body is so tense. My mind feels completely out of control, and I'm having trouble catching my breath. Like, that's a pretty significant state to be in. And so I start rambling to her about stuff, and as I'm rambling, I can hear it, right? My voice is getting more heightened. I'm becoming more and more, I'm very animated anyways, but I'm becoming more and more animated. And she just very calmly interjects periodically and says, I don't know about that. Here's what I think. And then just kind of deconstructs where these thoughts are irrational and says, I see where this started, you know? So she's not being dismissive. She's not saying, suck it up. She's not saying, oh my God, yeah, that sounds terrible, and like encouraging this fear. She's just very gently interjecting, especially as I become more and more intense, and just saying, hang on, let's look at it this way. And then slowly moving backwards through the mountain of things that just came out of my mouth so that we can find where it started and where it was rooted in reality, and then kind of pinpoint the place where I like cut the cord on the balloon and just started floating off into my fears. It sucked. Like, I feel so fortunate that I have a friend who can do that, and not everyone is that fortunate. There are apps. There's an app called BetterHelp. It's a free app where you can text in and get like hooked up with an actual licensed counselor. I'm not sponsored by BetterHelp. I have a friend who used them and raved about them, and then I recommended it to a few people based on her, and everyone I know who has used it has said they actually found it quite helpful. Panic attacks are a real thing. They're very scary. Think about the name of it. It's a panic attack. You literally feel like you are under attack from panic. You only feel panic when you're in tremendous fear. So, I feel like talking about mental health kind of gets you an instant bad rap, and, oh, you're just weak, and, everyone has stress, and you should learn stress management. And that's true. I openly acknowledge there were several points throughout my day where I made poor decisions that made my situation worse than it needed to be, right? I used to have panic attacks with relative frequency, and the last time I had one was at a shitty job I worked, and I was like crying on the bathroom floor of this job, like in the middle of the day, like an absolute disaster. And I was sober when this happened. And this one, I think it's been so many years since I had one. This one really caught me off guard, and I fell back into this. I was afraid to be really vulnerable. Like the idea of having to reach out to someone and say, what's going on in my head right now is crazy. And I know it's crazy, but I just need you to listen for a while. And then in a very particular way, I need you to not tell me that I'm crazy, but I need you to tell me that I'm wrong. Because I am. The thoughts that I'm having, they can't be traced effectively back to a place in reality, and that's a really big thing that I need somebody to coach me through. Not every day, not every time I have a stressful moment, but when I'm stressed to the point where I can't control my breathing, it's the one thing that should come rather naturally, and when it's happening completely unnaturally and I'm aware of it and I can't seem to find a way to get control of it again, I've already reached a place where I'm beyond what I can do on my own. I'm in a place where additional help is going to be necessary for me, and I can deny it as long as I want, and I can make my situation worse, or I can humble myself, and I can, dig somewhere to find, already in this state of panic and fear, find that little bit of courage to practice real vulnerability. I don't like that. I prefer to be the person helping people. I prefer to be the person people come to. Don't we all, right? But this is a very humbling situation for me, where I just got kind of a nice reminder that I don't have it all together all the time, and that I freak out sometimes, and that it's okay. It's okay that I wigged out over, I should be happy. I don't want to say should be, who am I to say what should be? I made a big decision, and I put that decision into action. And it's something I've wanted for a very long time. So it feels like I should just be celebrating. But there's a lot of reality that came with it that was just overwhelming for me. And then instead of addressing it for what it was, I tried to overlook it and dismiss it as other things. And that made it that much worse. So I wanted to talk about it because, lots of people are struggling with either daily anxiety or anxiety and panic attacks, or various other conditions, and there is still stigma, and there is still a lot of suck it up buttercup. And I'm normally a suck it up buttercup kind of person, to be honest. A lot of people would describe me as a hard ass, and they're not wrong. But I also, I'm a hard ass because I know that part of taking care of yourself, which is what I recommend to everybody, right? Be accountable. You're in charge. Part of taking care of yourself, as I was reminded recently, is asking for help when you need it. Taking care of yourself doesn't mean having all the answers or being perfect all the time. Taking care of yourself means doing the best you can with what you've got, And then also recognizing when you're out of your depth and then reaching for somebody to assist you in those times instead of just floundering. Because, if you know you've tried your best to handle a situation and your best isn't cutting it and the situation is not getting better, the wise thing to do is ask for some assistance. I'm going to link that app that I was talking about. I'm going to link in the description box here. I'm also going to link just a couple of hotlines. I know that not everyone is as fortunate as I am, and not everyone, I hate saying that, I'm talking about friends. I just feel really, really blessed about the human beings that I'm lucky to have in my life. That's what I mean by how I'm fortunate. But I know that not a lot of people have really intimate relationships where they actually feel like they can say those things to people and be that vulnerable and say, I'm nuts right now, please can you help? And know that person is going to say, I'm here, what do you need? That's another thing actually that I want to touch on before I finish, and I will finish soon, I promise, because this has been long as hell. So one of my friends regularly says to me, anytime I say I'm struggling with whatever, her like instant response is always, how can I support you? And I really like that. Because people have like somebody says they're depressed and someone's like, well, don't be sad. And you're like, oh, cool, thanks. Like, it's not, we don't always know how to help people, even if we want to. And the way we address people sometimes can actually be more harmful. I think there's a wisdom in saying to someone who needs help, I'm actually not sure how to help you. Do you know what it is you need? One of my girlfriends who replied kind of after the fact, while I was on my video chat with my homegirl, my other homegirl started messaging me and just like sending me like happy stuff to look at. She was like, I don't know if this will work. I don't know if this will make you happy, but like, I'm just trying. Like, I hope this takes your mind off things. And so when I actually got a chance to message her back, I said, thank you. I really appreciate that. And I talked to somebody. I'm much better now. Thank you for getting back to me. I appreciate your support. And she said, I need to know if this ever happens again, how I can help you, because I was unprepared for this. So I guess the other thing that I wanted to mention here is like, it's okay to ask. It's okay to ask for help, because you're struggling and you need somebody to assist you either in a moment or with an ongoing thing that you're dealing with. That's all good and it's great. Another really cool thing that I think gets overlooked is saying to somebody, how can I help you? And actually asking how. Where I think we all think we're supposed to say this and we're supposed to say that, but people are individuals, and how they deal with their struggles has nothing to do with whatever you were taught about, this particular situation, or whatever you experienced with your sister who has anxiety or your cousin who has anxiety. It presents differently in individuals. So, if you have someone you care about in your life and you know that they have these kind of challenges, I'm not saying you need to baby anybody that you don't want to. Let me be clear about that. It's not anyone's job to take care of anyone else. I'm saying if you have a person in your life and you wish to be supportive of them, and you would like to know how you can help them in their trying times, the best thing I think that you might be able to do is ask them, what makes you feel better when you're in a state like that? That was such a heartwarming thing for my friend to say that to me. Like, tell me what I can do if it ever happens again. I tried what I thought, but I realized what I think works might not be what works. So you tell me, how can I support you? So, oh, my dog is snoring up a storm. He's very bored with this long ass story, and you guys probably are too. So I'm going to wrap it up. That's what happened. That was my big panic attack. It was very scary. It was very humbling. I had to practice very real vulnerability where I was already scared and had to say to somebody, I'm scared, can you help me? And let go of the fact that they may judge me, and they, whatever perception of me they may have been altered by seeing me in this state. I had to let go of all that and just say, none of it matters because I need help right now. And that's the bottom line. And that the other really cool thing was that, people said, how can I help? If you got people in your life and you want to help them, ask them how. Don't tell them what you read online. Don't tell them what you saw on Dr. Oz. Ask them. They're individuals. Ask them what works for them as the unique individuals that they are. This is, again, I'm certainly no better than Dr. Oz, so I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just making a suggestion, something that, I know it made me feel really good for somebody to say, tell me what you need. How can I take care of you in this moment? That certainly made me feel loved and cared for and respected as an individual. Like, it really meant a lot to me. So I'm sure if you've got a loved one in your life, you'd be happy to make them feel as nice as that made me feel. So that's my suggestion to you. It's a challenge, actually. I challenge you to, if you're a person who knows that you're struggling with whatever right now, then like I challenge you to find somebody in your life that you trust and just say, I don't expect you to have the answers, and I'm not asking you to do anything for me. I'm just telling you I have this thing going on right now and I'm at my wit's end with it. And like, if you have any help you could give, that would be great. And at the same, the flip side to that is if you have a person in your life and you see that they're floundering and they're struggling with something, you don't need to go in there and save them. You don't need to do that. But if you wish to, it wouldn't be a bad idea to say, I see this is going on, or at least this is how it looks to me. Would you like some help? And if so, what could I do to help? You tell me. I wish I had like a cool line to end this on, and I don't. And it's so long, so I'm just going to end it. Good night.